Okay, cool. So now we're recording. Sorry about that. Only took 5 minutes to get it going. All right, so let's get back to what we were just talking about. Number one, from like just a planning perspective, and Brooks, I'd love to be able to get your feedback on this again. But is milestone planning for the FP&A team, has it been useful, number one, and what can we do to make it better?
I can start again. I think the process is super useful. I don't think we capture all of the issues in the milestones, and so there's, I think it's underrepresentative of what we work on. In terms of this meeting, I think that what would be maybe beneficial, maybe just a status update. You can almost do that bi-weekly on where we are with milestones and any expected dates, that kind of stuff. Would probably be just as easy as doing a meeting, and everybody just logs in, fills out the sheet, and we have a pretty good idea of where we are with all that. For instance, I know one of them I'll have to push out till when we do the annual plan. I think you and I've talked about that, the bottoms up template. So I'll be pushing that out several months, but everything else I'm in good shape for. So I don't know how everybody feels about that. Again, standing meeting if we absolutely need it, but I think all the updates we can do just through a Google Sheet or Google Doc.
Okay, I think what we can do, and really like the weekly FP&A meeting that we have, we should be able to do like a status update there, because that's everything that we're working on. That's not just like an ad hoc thing, should live in an issue or a merge request. So I think kind of driving it that way. So the milestone planning is kind of when we'll plan for the next milestone, but then like during that milestone that we're in, we can do status updates every week. So I've taken some notes away on that, so we can do that moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just have a standing section at the bottom of every FP&A meeting where you just list out kind of all the milestones that are there and just what the. But after that, it's just easy to run through.
Okay. All right. Any other suggestions or concerns or anything like that?
Hey, Chase.
Hey.
For me, my issues are kind of being assigned on the finance project board and the data team project board. Is there a certain way we want to do that? In my case, have everything assigned to the finance board maybe, or project?
Yeah, ideally we should have, and I think I talked to Emily about this, but her thought process was everything that you work on would be driven by or live in the finance repo. So we can move all those issues over to there. So yeah, let me make an update there, and I can do that. It's relatively easy to do that, which is good.
Cool. Yeah, because I've tried to go into the issues that are on the data team project and add the FP&A label and the data analyst finance label, and I couldn't see them there. So I didn't know if I was doing something wrong or what.
Yeah, the repos are totally different. So there may be labels in one specific repo that's not going to be in another.
Gotcha.
Set up there. I'll talk to, maybe I'll join the data ops meeting next week to kind of talk about that, because it's probably good to kind of figure out how Eli's doing it, because he's in the kind of the same boat as you are. Like he's doing a lot of, or everything that he's working on is based on the growth team, but he falls into the data team.
Okay, that'll be good.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Cool. All right. So let me share my screen. And well, actually, before I move forward, like I think one suggestion from me that I think I'm going to send to product is, and I'll share my screen to kind of walk out through this, because I like to be able to see how well we did during a sprint or a milestone. And if we go back to June's milestone, it's representative of 100% complete, which is not the true story, because we pushed issues into the next milestone. So I'd love to be able to see a way or articulate a way that would show the true representation of like how many issues we actually got complete out of the total issues that we had assigned for that milestone. And that could tell us how well we're actually performing, or one way.
Is this going to lead to kind of our KPIs in terms of closed milestones and pushed milestone targets and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know. Probably. I think that's probably a good way for us to be able to measure how well we're doing. So, I think both Sid and Paul have mentioned that eventually everyone will have their KPIs, or everybody will have their own KPIs. So that may be something that we assign down the road. I think that's a really good way to be able to see how productive we are. And to your point, Brooks, there are a lot of things, especially in finance, that we do that's kind of ad hoc or not represented in an issue. So trying to figure out how we want to approach that. Do we want to put everything into an issue because that just becomes a lot more administrative burden, or do we try to figure out how to capture it a different way?
I mean, there's something to be said for. I mean, I'm referring. There's all sorts of one-offs, right? Like there's, hey, can you see me this number? And then there's, hey, do this analysis kind of deal. I mean, maybe this is a handbook update or something, but I think I would kind of lean against anything that takes over an hour or two needs to be in an issue, just because that's starting to kind of mess up a day, and we've all got kind of plans, and so like I'd like to see XYZ leader needs something, throw it in an issue, send it to me, tag me in the issue, throw it on Slack, do whatever you need to do, and then because I go in and I kind of allocate my day based off of issues for the most part. I used to, until I don't really get a whole ton anymore. It's all kind of done ad hoc through Slack and et cetera. So
are you making your own issues, Brooks? Like when you're like building a model kind of deal and it's what you've decided is next?
Yeah, I've started to.
Okay.
I've been historically really bad about that. So like Paul will say, hey, can you put this together for me? And so I've started like making an issue out of that. That way I can tag him and he can ask any other questions, and I can link the spreadsheet in there if I need to. I'm trying to make a hard and fast example.
I haven't been great about making my own, so I need to, if we're going that route, I should start making my own for those types of things, it sounds like.
Well, I don't know if it's, I mean, maybe we set a threshold, but then there's certain occasions where you'll kind of go back and forth a little bit on a certain thing and it ends up taking a lot longer to do. I don't think we necessarily should create issues for everything, because again, that becomes like an administrative burden. But at the same time, figuring out like how we can actually become more productive and not like be thrown out of focus from a lot of these ad hoc requests that we get.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, there's certainly a fine line there, right? Like I don't want, Scott just asked me for what the annual plan for headcount was, right? I don't want him to have to go through that in an issue and deal with that. Like that's certainly an ad hoc thing. But when I, about a month and a half ago, right around where Contribute was, I had a ton of issues open, and I think we've all created a little board that says what we're working on, what's in process, what's done, that kind of stuff. And I think that's super helpful, not only, just for me to go in and say, every morning I go in and I drag and drop, this is what I'm going to be working on today. But it's also super helpful for people to go add things like a Scott Williamson or a Paul or Chase or whomever, to go create an issue, throw it in there, and they can see kind of, hey, what's the update and what I'm working on, where it is in the process, that kind of deal.
So maybe like a good line would be like, if it takes me longer than an hour or 2 hours, then create an issue. But if not, if it's just ad hoc, we can kind of leave it and not create an issue for it.
Yeah, I mean, we can decide on that threshold. I mean, Chase, it may be beneficial would it be appropriate to say when someone reaches out through Slack for something, I mean, if you just do a gut check and say, hey, this is going to say, I'm right in the middle of something, shoot me an issue or create an issue so I have it in my queue and I know when to get to it, because that's the other really useful thing about it is, you know, when you're right in the middle of something and you get some asked, then, I mean, if I usually add it to like Wunderlist or something, but, you know, if I don't check Wunderlist that day, then I forget about it. You know, it's that kind of stuff.
So the data team's really good about doing that. Like when there's a specific request out there, or if somebody asks something on the data channel, they'll say, hey, put it in the issue and we'll get to it when we can. Sometimes they're more responsive in that way, or sometimes like they can jump on it then. Sometimes they don't. And I think that helps them keep focused on everything that they're working on, and which is why I think they've done a really good job of getting all this information and stuff out, and all the engineering aspects and stuff built out. But at the same time, the flip side of that is that there's certain things that we need now. And I know there's a balance to that, but finance, at least from my historical career in finance, is that we're always kind of the ones that are the intermediaries between like a production team and maybe like someone that's asking for the specific work. So we're able to find things really quickly, get it done relatively quickly, and then work with the production team, whoever that may be, like in this case, the data team, to build out a more sophisticated analysis. I don't really know where I was going with that, but
I think maybe the middle
I lost train of thought.
I think maybe the middle ground there is to, like, the first question I always ask when someone asks me something is like, what's the timeline, right? And so maybe we can kind of create a hierarchy that says if you need it this quickly, you know, reach out on Slack and be transparent about what you need and how quickly you need it so that, you know, we can go reprioritize. But if you don't need it within, like, I'd almost say if you don't need it today or tomorrow, maybe put it in an issue. If it's not like a yes or no question kind of deal, put it in an issue, tag us, link it into the Slack so it's, you know, we see it, and then go from there.
Yeah, I actually think that's a good idea.
All right, I can add a section in finance about, like, I mean, label it reaching out to the finance business partner or finance team or whatever that is.
Yeah, so it kind of becomes like a SLA, like SLAs for finance requests.
Exactly.
Would be a good way to. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good approach. We can try it out and see how it does in practice.
Okay.
All right. So let's maybe move on to, we've only got like 30 minutes at most left. So I wanted to walk through and just see where we're at on this milestone. So right now, we've got like another 4 business days, I think, to be able to complete the rest of the issues that we have out. So we're 48% complete, which is not super great, especially considering some of the requests are out there. But I think a lot of them fall on my plate, and a lot of this is just being able to learn how we can become more productive. And this is the second milestone that we've kind of gone through, especially as a new team. So I think the more that we do this and get in a better cadence, the better we'll get into a rhythm of, you know, this is kind of the flow, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're working off of. I don't think it's, and let me know if y'all disagree, but I don't think looking at the closed issues are necessarily valuable because they're already kind of done. But looking at the ones that are open and to see if we can get done within the next 4 days or what's going to push. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Hey, Chase, can I make a really quick comment back on the whole issue deal?
Yeah.
I think this team, we haven't had an issue because the team's so small, and even with Joey D and Israel coming on, like, it's still not an issue at all. But as this team grows, I think it'll be even more important that, as you know, I'm the finance business partner for R&D, right? But if there's asks that, you know, maybe I can punt off to an analyst or someone who has a little bit more, like Joey D has a lot more experience just running through all the sheets, right? The get a financial model and, the allocation, all that kind of stuff. Or if he doesn't, then that's kind of the role that someone will have. So it may be really beneficial to be able to just tag people in those issues and send it to their board, but have it still kind of flow through those milestones. Because, as we become, I don't know, 20, 25 people, people are going to have those certain roles. And the same deal if Joey D gets a question about GitLab.com allocation and he gets tagged in the issue, you'll be able to send it to me and it'll show up on my board, and then, I can disperse it however I need to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think me and Christine went through that. When we were working with orders process, she tagged me on an issue and I knocked it out that day. So I'm all for that kind of model.
Yeah, on the data team, we have this concept of triaging. So every day somebody's assigned to monitor all the data channels and triage the requests. So we're being responsive. And then there's kind of guidelines on certain things you can do, from certain data pipelines failing, or certain people need a request. Like a lot of times it'll be somebody just needs to be pointed to the right dashboard or the right place to get the information. Sometimes it's the case, well, please make an issue for this, and we'll have to look at that. Sometimes it's a quick answer. You just answer them right there. So, something I've still got to get used to figure out how to do it right. But that's what they do on the data side.
That's a really good idea too. I think that we could utilize, at least with helping out answer a lot of questions that are in the finance channel. Now, a lot of the questions that are in the finance channel are generally related to payroll or something to do with more along that lines.
Expensify.
Yeah, Expensify. That's a majority of what kind of conversation is happening there. But I do think it would actually be good practice if we could do something like that, just to be able to get everybody educated on who to reach out to for what.
Yeah.
I have the benefit of being here a little bit longer than y'all, so I generally know where to channel things to. But I think being able to have a triage process that somebody is assigned to each day would help kind of get everyone up to speed and know who to specifically reach out to.
Yeah, especially if you can get people kind of putting inquiries in the finance channel. It seems like maybe people are just going, if that was the direction we wanted to go, it seems like people are kind of going one off. But if you kind of put it in the public channel, that would help get people to do that.
It could be time saving too for whoever's not on duty that day, versus having to kind of watch all the channels all the time to make sure you're not missing something.
That's good. And that's kind of what's in the data handbook too. It's like the guidance is, it's not like you're on call or anything like that. It's, you check it throughout the day, whether it be every couple hours, 3 hours, but it's just so there's some kind of ownership where so that day, that person kind of plans to be on call, that, plans to be looking at it that day. Everybody else can focus on deep work. And then, so that kind of helps to make sure our customers are feeling like they're heard, and then that the team, and the team is able, some people can do the deep work. One person is kind of monitoring that. So to me, it's a good concept.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a great idea and a concept.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could do a handbook update and then just try to figure out who owns what during which day. I don't want to make it super formal, just because people are going to be on vacation or sick or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is too, for the finance channel, a majority of the folks again are just asking payroll or Expensify related questions, so we should be able to help out regardless. But all right, these are all really great.
Speaking of that, real quick, is there any appetite for having an FP&A channel, something that's not, because you're right, if you scroll through finance, 90% of it's how do I expense this, or what's my benefit that, or that kind of stuff. Is it? I'd hate to spend resources. I think the triage thing is a good idea, and have kind of one person assigned to that daily or hourly or however you want to do that. But I also don't want one of us to waste our time, explaining people how to Expensify stuff and all that kind of stuff. So is there any appetite for a specific FP&A channel where
I think so.
Modeling questions or whatever it is?
Yeah, when it was just me, I had a channel called Business Planning, And I use it solely during the rolling 4-quarter forecast to keep everybody up to date. Haven't done it this time around because I forgot to do it, but I think having an FP&A channel and having it for FP&A specific things, especially as we grow, I think would be really beneficial. And again, it gets, it's channeling to the right, having a channel to be able to channel the information to the right area would be really beneficial. So I think that's a good idea too. We'd have to communicate it through like with everybody else, but I think having it out there would keep specific questions that we are able to answer within reason.
Yeah, I think the most relevant scenario that I can think of is if let's say I'm out today and Scott or Lefowitz or someone has a question on the 4-quarter rolling forecast, they could just punt the question in there, and Christine or Zach or you or whomever else will be able to kind of at least give a high level, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, go ahead and add this person or take this person away or whatever that may be. So.
Okay. Great. Well, this actually ended up being more of a brainstorming session that has a lot of really good feedback. So this has been great. All right, so let's move forward just to kind of plan out next month's milestone. Let's look and see what we have open. Actually, let's go into the boards to see. So I've got the board, and I update this FP&A board once a month to be able to pull in the milestone that we're working on. So as long as there's an FP&A label assigned to that specific issue with a milestone of whatever month we're in, then it should flow into this board. I actually updated or checked everything before this meeting to make sure that was good to go. Let's come back to the OKRs because those are pretty important, but let's move on for now. So Joey, let's start with you first on this. Do you think that, I'm trying to remember what this was about. Oh yeah. So being able to have a single dashboard for all like the investor update metrics. I think that the idea here was to be able to understand what we're missing and then be able to get that into organized into like a Periscope dashboard.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
So I created an issue for all the metrics that are missing from the investor update, like LTV, and a couple other metrics that need to be uploaded in Periscope. And so I created an issue for all those. And so the data team is pretty like filled up with tasks already. So Emily kind of gave me like an idea of like how long it would take, and it's probably not going to be immediate. So more than likely this issue might be open for a while.
Do you think actually let's kind of step back here and maybe do this really quickly. So if if there's an issue that we're not going to be able to hit like this month, just let us know the timeline or like when you think it can be complete, and then we can adjust it quickly so we don't have to go through like every detailed issue to kind of do that update. So what's your kind of expectation on being able to get this done?
Probably next month. So we can change it to Milestone for August.
Okay. Let's see. And the 606 modeling, I think that's just going to be one of those things that's going to linger on. Is that kind of your understanding too, Joey? Like, does that even need to have a milestone?
Yeah, that doesn't need a milestone. Like, this is something that's kind of been going on for several months, and we're still like doing a lot of the data cleaning before we can even get to the modeling. So yeah, so there shouldn't be a milestone on that.
Okay. And then, okay, so this was adding rep productivity, understanding like the calculation for rep productivity, and then getting that to a Periscope dashboard. So it looks like you met with Vince and got the actual definition.
Yep.
Good. Okay, cool. So I think I don't think we can get this one done quite yet because I still think there's some understanding of like the being able to get the data in the right format that we need. So I'm going to push this one. In Israel, probably, I think we can, well, let's leave this open. In Israel, I think I'm going to assign this to you because at this point, it's being able to get this specific KPI in Periscope. Joey helped out with trying to figure out like what the actual calculation for that was.
Yeah, and so we just changed it from gross IACV to net, well, there's no such thing as just IACV over the number of reps.
Okay.
So it wasn't a huge change.
I think this is going to have to go here. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so I think we're good there. All right, Brooks. Rack accrual process.
You don't need to open that. It'll be done.
Okay. It'll be done this month, or you think it'll slip into the next month? Uh-oh, he froze. All right, maybe let's move on from Brooks and
I'm here. Sorry, I don't know what my internet's doing. Yeah, Rackspace is done.
Oh, it's done completely?
Yeah, I mean, she accrued this month. I just need the new details on. I think we just need to update the query and the issue, and it's done.
Okay.
Know where we are in FP&A. That's probably a push. That's dependent upon when the rolling 4 quarters is done.
Yeah, okay. So let's look at that one really quickly because I can't recall. I think this was to be able to get like a pretty detailed level plan, into Snowflake.
Yeah, so it's next month probably.
Yeah, let's push this to next month because there's still some things that need to happen. I don't think we're going to get to it this month.
Okay. Collection process, that'll be done. That's easy. We were just waiting on the entity piece so I can do the whole process.
And what is this? Can you walk through this so we can, like, all of us can understand?
Yeah, so we have basically everything in GitLab.com is defined as a process. The only thing that's not is how we get the actuals. And so it's really just defining where I get support, where I get infrastructure, which mattered a little bit more in the past because I had to do some calculations for infra, but now it just comes straight out of NetSuite, so it's easy. And then just how we get all the invoices, and we just plug them in. I don't even know if this needs to be in the handbook, to be honest with you, because there's really not a process anymore. It's just plugging in numbers. So Chase, we can talk about that next week if you want to, if it even needs to be in there, but there's not really a data collection process anymore. It's just plug the invoices in.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, maybe let's table that and we can talk about it in our one-on-one next week.
There used to be a process, but
I'll add that to. Just gonna make a quick note really quickly. Okay. All right.
And then the last one, I think this is, I just pull I'd err on the side of not having a milestone because the milestone for this is going to be about 2 to 3 weeks before we start annual plan. Give us 2 or 3 weeks to run through everything, and then let's go from there.
And for everyone on the call, this is essentially to be able to plan out our integrated model. So when we plan out our integrated model, essentially like the way that we would do it is expenses would be based off of a percentage of headcount and non-headcount, and then the rest of the GL accounts would have some type of percentage tied to those breakouts, so we can understand really quickly the allocation of expenses based on GL accounts.
Yeah, and there's a couple accounts. I think it was like 4 or 5 software subscriptions, hosting services, a couple others that will follow that process and be kind of geared on the account level, but also provide inputs for a bottoms up from the business so that we know what's going into those costs, but to ensure that they're in line with the gearing ratio. So I've got the first draft. It's pretty nasty, but I'm just going to kind of continue working on it.
What can we do to speed it up? Because I feel like this is one of those things that would be really valuable if we could get it, at least the first iteration out, and then work from there.
I think you and I need to sit down and chat about what accounts we want to do bottoms up and what the assumptions are right now. And I can run you through I have the shell, right? I have enough to show you the way I'm thinking about it. It's just kind of the assumptions that we need to build out. So
Okay.
we can do it in a one-on-one. Probably allocate about 20 minutes to run through that. But if you want to bump this up to the next 4-quarter rolling forecast, like I'm all about it. Let's do it.
I'm gonna add it to September's milestone. I feel like just because we have the rolling 4-quarter forecast going on the next like 3 or 4 weeks, it's gonna take up a lot of time, and it's gonna definitely go into August. But I do think I would like to be able to see just kind of the first iteration of this. I know it's going to be really valuable to be able to have this, and it's going to be pretty critical for us to be able to have this for our integrated financial model.
Done deal.
Okay. All right. Let's skip me just for the sake of time, and we'll come back. Zach's not on the call, so we're going to table this, but I'll table his. But just to kind of give y'all an idea, so we're on the same page. Yeah, so Christine and Brooks, y'all got everything to recruiting that we needed to do for that ad hoc greenhouse stuff. Zach is still working with the sales and marketing team to be able to get all that information in. So this is what this issue is about, and that's definitely going to go into August.
Will recruiting be updating it based on however we do finish the rolling forecast?
Yeah, so once we get through with the rolling 4-quarter forecast, and everybody's good with it, like from a departmental and functional leadership point of view, then that's when we will say, hey, recruiting, here's everything that we have that we've planned for the next 4 quarters.
Okay, and they'll remove anything, like if the plans have changed, will they adjust it accordingly?
That's the idea. I don't know how well it's going to work in practice.
Okay. Because mine has just really already changed since when I went through this a couple of weeks ago. So that was my concern.
I think that's the biggest risk that we have for that particular process, is things change quite a bit. So being able to understand like what roles or what levels are changing. We'll have to get through like the first iteration to see how we can improve on it. And then the last thing for Zach is the outreach team is now changed into community relations. So this is David, Ray, John Coughlin, that team. That they're essentially the team that on the marketing side that builds out our developer community. And it's just a name change. So nothing too important there, but good for y'all to know. All right, Israel, let's table your stuff right now too, because we got to pipe everything over from the data repo to here so we can be able to track it better.
Yep. I have an idea of what it's going to be though, if you wanted me to voice over it really quickly. So it's going to mainly those finance KPIs, and there's 12 of them that will move over in this milestone. Maybe we'll get through half of them, and then so probably half of them will get pushed in the next month. And then the first, with your help with the stuff you're going to help follow up on for me, we should be able to knock that out in the early part of the next milestone and get a nice, coming to the next milestone with a nice big win in the first couple weeks of August. And then we closed out, and then we did that churn MRR dashboard. So we got that closed. So and then we pushed everything else to August.
Yeah, so Israel's done a great job jumping in, and I just want to walk y'all through this really quickly to show you if I can find it.
Which one are you looking for?
Where is the ones like all the KPI metrics or KPI issues? Is that not in the data repo?
Yeah, it should be in the data.
Maybe I'm not looking at the right project.
Issues. It should be there.
There it is.
Can you?
Yeah, so
Yep.
this is everything on the financial side of this big KPI initiative that we're doing, and this is everything that Israel's going to be working on. Like this is like top priority for him and I to be able to work through. But ultimately, like all of this information will be in a Periscope dashboard with the actuals, the targets, and then the goals, or maybe it'll just be the goals. So that's what he's got. What Israel, what you have going on? You got a little bit.
It's fun though. I love it. Learning the good stuff here with the
there's
accounts and numbers. So
let me show you all this really quickly. You may already know how to do it, but I'm going to go here and edit issues. I don't know if I can do this all at once. Oh, it doesn't look like I can do that. But you can actually come into an issue itself and you can move it. Move this out of the way. You can move the issue to a different repo. So I could say finance. And I can move that issue to the finance repo.
Nice.
So it's really useful. It doesn't look like we can do it in bulk, but I'll follow up and find out. But this is how I'll basically move everything over.
Okay. That'll be great.
All right. So let's go back to, we've got 7 minutes. Let's go back to me. Let's see what we have going on. I think the biggest things that we need to probably discuss are the OKRs. Let's go into here. So the 5-year integrated model, I think we're, at least for having it complete, like we're pretty far behind target on that. I think aggressively or ambitiously, rather, this quarter was probably not the best time to kind of build this out because everybody's still getting up to speed. But I know support's already done, right, Brooks? Like we've kind of walked through that.
The first iteration.
Okay.
I think it would be beneficial for all of us, including Paul, to discuss this again. I don't know where the other business partners are with this, but support was very easy, or not easy, but simple and clear cut and certainly doable, obviously. I have gotten, between like 6 departments within engineering, I probably have upwards of 40 to 50 metrics that they want to be gearing on. And so I think it might be beneficial to kind of level set on KPIs versus gearing and like what actually is a gearing ratio. Because we need to kind of go back and reteach that to the leaders.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I'm going to add it to our weekly FP&A meeting so we can review in detail. I think that's a good time to kind of bring this back up and discuss as a team.
Yeah, the engineering team did an awesome job kind of taking charge and filling a bunch of stuff out. But you're going to get, and it's modelable, right? Like you can do it. It's just going to be crazy complicated.
Okay. It shouldn't, I definitely agree that it's going to be complicated at the end, but we should definitely focus on getting at least that first small iteration out for each area. I think I'm going to push this because I think I'm going to push and add this as a OKR for Q3 just because it is really complex, but at the same time, we should be able to get at least the V1 out. So I want to set the milestone for next quarter. And then I think we have what we need. Sorry, I'm getting bugged by Microsoft. Automating the metrics in Periscope, I think we've already defined like what specific metrics we need, so that's good. Definitely, I've already done this. This is done by the data team. This is done too. And I think what we need to do is follow up on like out of all the KPIs or metrics, like where are we at? So I'm gonna add a note to say, follow up on okay. Something. And then I think before like we could even do really the integrated financial model and like getting the metrics into the data warehouse and in Periscope, the biggest thing was being able to define like the definitions, KPIs, and goals. So y'all did a really great job in addition to the data team on being able to get this pretty much across the finish line. I think there's one or two metrics that are still out there to get answered. One's from marketing, and I think the other one was from people ops, but I think that's going to push into Q3 just because it's out of scope.
Yeah, they need to see what greenhouse inclusion can give them before they can define what's going to be tracked.
Great. I'm going to leave this one open for right now, and I'll update it here in a minute. But really good job on being able to get the definitions, KPIs, and goals set in addition to the data team. Emily did a shout out to Emily for doing a really good job on just pushing all of that stuff forward as well. And then this will be the last thing that we talk about when we wrap up. So getting the P&Ls by departments, we already have that done. So that's good. I think the biggest thing here is being able to start doing the budget process. So my big goal for really the next week is to be able to have the capacity model broken out to give to each finance business partner. And then y'all on that process based on what functions roll into or what functions y'all on. And then I've started to, in the FP&A handbook, I've started to build out what the budgeting will look like. I added some stuff. Brooks has added the out of budget business case, and then just kind of the process for the monthly finance meeting, in addition to variance analysis and the thresholds for those. So Joey and I are going to be working on building out the templates moving forward, trying to make it a lot easier for everyone, for us to be able to snapshot things, have things in one location and know where they're at. I think one of the things was the first month you are here, like, hey, where can I find the plan? Where can I find the forecast? Being able to make that really easy moving forward is kind of the goal of getting this done. So we're pretty much there. I think we can actually get this done by next week. So that'd be really good. That'd be a good OKR to hit. All right, we're at time. I'll upload this to YouTube and I'll add it to the channel as well, so y'all can review if you would like to. But otherwise, if you don't have anything else, we can adjourn. And then if you do have any suggestions or anything else you want to add it to the finance channel or finance confidential channel, or just update the doc itself. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.